Hi, I'm Gail Thackeray, and I'm going to talk to you today about writing your own book. So I'm a writer and author, and that still sounds kind of weird to me because I never would have thought I could do that. Writing was never my forte. I was never very good at English when I was in school, can't spell. I just would have never dreamed that I could be an author and have published books. And as you can see, I have a whole stack of books that I've written in the last few years. And so if I can do it, everybody can do it. But, you know, there was a big learning curve for me, and I've maybe not gone about it in the easiest way. And so through writing, I've had my own experiences and discovered that it makes it a lot easier if you have a system, a way of doing things and organizing things. And when I first started, I didn't know anything. And like most writers, I would just, start at chapter 1 and keep going, which is probably the worst way to do it. And so I've learned a lot over time, and also learned a lot about publishing. And things have changed even in the last couple of years. I mean, now we've got programs that make it very easy to do voice recording for part of it, and some technology that's there to help you, and a lot more direction and programs that we can use. So I just wanted to share some of the information that I have learned, and give you a kind of a system so that you can write your book easily and quickly and also make money out of it. Because I think a lot of people, they write a book and they put it out and they think it's going to make a ton of money, and then they're really disappointed because it really just sits there and it doesn't do anything. Okay, so first of all, why do you want to write a book? Do you have a story? Do you have are you speaking about something right now? Do you have like a subject that is your business or your passion? Or do you have a business of a product that you sell? For me, writing a book is really an amazing platform to really launch your personal brand. And I think you can write a book about any kind of business or any kind of product that you have. I think we all have this backstory, or we've all kind of gained information about this subject that a lot of people will find interesting or useful. And the thing about writing a book for me is it can tremendously raise your profile. So if you're already speaking, you're already, got something out there, and you write a book, it takes you suddenly from being a knowledgeable person about that to all of a sudden like you're an expert. And it's kind of shocking because it's so easy to write a book, but yet there is still, the public has this kind of perception that when you have written a book, you are now an expert on that subject. And so just writing a book can really, really increase your profile, your business, your market, getting out to customers. So, yes, you can make money on publishing books for sure. You can make money on writing, especially non-fiction writers. And so you'll hear about these people that just knock out a bunch of books and make money per book sale. And I've definitely found some ways of shortening writing a book. I've definitely created a system now on how to write a book more quickly, and also the key elements that you need to include to sell a book. I've learned a lot of things about what exactly, is going to engage the reader, what things they're going to find exciting, and also about marketing. And you need to know about the marketing before you even start writing your book, because you need to kind of gear it up with your market in mind. So I've learned a lot about how to make money with a book as opposed to just writing a book and it's sitting there. But to me, the big money, or the big incentive to write a book, is not how much money you're going to make per book. It's the the presence, the market share, the publicity, the raising of your personal profile, or an awareness about your product that is so much more valuable than just the money per book. So there are people that make money on the books, and you know, if you look at some of these non-fiction writers that do this, I mean, they're making, you know, a few dollars a book. They're generally knocking books out, like maybe a book every week or a book every 2 weeks. Often they're writing a series of books about a certain subject. They might not even know about that subject. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll pick a subject that they're sort of interested in, and they'll go out and they'll research it, and they'll read a lot of different books on that subject, and then they will write a whole, maybe 5 or 6 books about that subject, and then they'll pick another subject. And sometimes they will even change alias names. So those people are not really looking to launch this as a platform. They're looking more to make money per book. So I'm going to explain what I've learned about how to make money on your book. But to me, the much more important goal here is getting your book out to a mass market. And I know some of you might be going, oh, well, it's more about sharing my story. I want to get my story out. Well, that's, you know, the same thing. We're talking about sharing your knowledge, getting it out there, and if you can, creating that into a career. And if you want to do that for a business, making money on the market share and not on the individual money that you're going to make on a book, which I'll show you how to do. But my advice is, for every penny you make on the book, let's pour that right back in to promoting that book and getting more market share. Because to me, your book is your calling card. This is like having a brochure, but a brochure that people want. So if you have a brochure for your company and you give it to a customer, they're probably not going to be very interested. You know, it looks like a piece of, you know, sales, and they're not really, they're just going to throw it in the trash. You can have a book that really is going to go into depth about your story or your product, or, you know, why you're an expert in this field. And it has the same kind of result as giving them an extended catalog or brochure, but yet they feel like they are getting content. They feel like you are giving them content. So you can either give your book to people, or even, you know, if they're going to buy your book, and then they're even more invested. But to me, we're talking about publishing a book, because ultimately this is going to take you to the next level. Okay, so mostly I'm talking about how-to kind of books or non-fictional journey kind of books. And the system I'm talking about will work for all kinds of books, even a fictional novel, but there's a little bit of difference. So, you know, this is like a how-to book. In fact, it even says how to talk to your pets. This is kind of a medium or thinner sized book. And as you can see, this one's got lots of graphics. It's got lots of kind of breaks, places that copy is highlighted. So somebody who's looking to read a how-to book, they want to know what they're going to learn about. And you see I have a lot of bullet points on the back cover telling them exactly how much they're going to learn. But they don't want to see some book that looks very thick, a lot of pages, because they're going to feel like, oh, this is going to be a lot of work, or it's going to be a lot of fluff. People actually like, on a how-to book, an instructional book, they want to feel like they're getting a lot of information, but they don't want a lot of fluff. They want to learn, but they don't want to feel like they're getting descriptions too much. And so they want to see a lot of lists, bullet points, things that are highlighted, where they really feel like they can, maybe even at the end of the chapter, a summary on what they've learned. So let me see, on the how-to books, I have my Reiki manuals. These are instructional manuals. A lot of diagrams. Here, this happens to have a lot of photos in it, but the content is definitely split into sections. They don't want to have too much long pieces of text, that they feel like is a lot of work. These are little mini books I made because I really think people also like the idea of, oh wow, I could learn a lot about a subject, but it's a little pocket-sized book, so I don't have to do a lot of work, I don't have to spend a lot of time learning about this subject, and it's very condensed. And again, even though it's a little mini book, I've got a lot of bullet points, sectioning out your content, making it look a little bit more visually desirable. So they want to feel like in a how-to book, they want to get a lot of knowledge, but they don't want to feel overfaced. The other thing I'm going to talk about is journey books. Okay, so a non-fictional book could be a how-to or describing some knowledge, some information that you're going to impart to somebody, or it could be you're sharing an experience, and through that experience, you are giving them a message. So you know, you're sharing a story in your life, and I think it's better if it is something that is your life, or a person who you are close to, who you're describing their life or their event, because you know, you want to write about something that you really are close to and you're passionate about. You've got to be passionate about your subject. If you're not passionate about it, you're going to have a very hard time and lose interest, especially when you get into the kind of the core writing part of it. It's at first everybody's very excited, and so when we go through the structure and we start to work like the overall and the structure of it, people are usually very excited to get that down. But when you get into the core writing, where you're going to be actually writing chapters, this is where you're going to get writer's block, and you're going to, you know, kind of have to get yourself on track. And I got a lot of tips for that, but that's where you're going to lose interest if you're not really passionate. So this is a journey book. So this is actually called Spiritual Journeys. And so this is following me and my story through an event, a place that I visited. So this is actually going to Brazil, next experience. So this is going to look more like a novel. I've got some pictures in the middle, but other than that, there's not a lot of breaks. There's not a lot of highlighting of copy. You might have a little bit in this kind of a journal book. So a journal book is kind of a cross between a novel and a how-to book. So it's written a little bit more like a novel. You are going, this is going to be a timeline book. And so a timeline book or a journey would normally have kind of a sequence. So you'd be following your day-to-day experiences. Of course, you might have a longer experience for certain periods, and you may have like a shortened experience. So in other words, you might spend 10 pages on an event that was, you know, very kind of particular or enlightening, whereas you may only spend a couple of pages on, you know, years leading up to it, just how you got there. And the other thing you might do is you might do flashbacks, so that it's not always going completely in timeline, especially for the first chapter. The first chapter needs to be something that kind of really draws in your attention. This one here is also another kind of a journey book. So your journey book is an experience that you have, but it has kind of a message to the reader. And so, you know, this message and this particular book is about spiritual events. This is about becoming a medium, becoming a psychic, having intuition experience. And of course, I've written a lot of books about the kind of self-help in the new age. But, you know, what I'm talking about could be any kind of genre. And I did write one book, which is a completely different genre, and that is my sexy book, my Running with Wolves book. And this also is a journey book, but this is more of a kind of an entertainment. This is kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street kind of a feel to it. So this is more like a novel. So your journey books are going to probably be a little bit thicker. When people are looking to read a novel, or they're looking for entertainment, such as this book, they're actually looking for quite a thick book with a lot of pages, because when you're looking to read a novel, you're looking to kind of get away and escape and become kind of engrossed in the material. And so you're looking to have as much of that as possible. So a nice thick book gives you the impression that you're going to be spending days or weeks having a lot of enjoyment out of it. Whereas a how-to book is going to be more about how can you get the most information in the least amount of time. And so a how-to book is going to be a lot more, like I said, a lot more kind of condensed information, more bullet points, more interesting. This particular book, I have a lot of areas where the reader is encouraged to actually make notes or writing. So this is kind of like a workbook. And that is that's something that you want to try to get your people to be engaged. And if they're actually writing in the book, that's kind of committing them to be involved and engaged. So that's a great way of doing a how-to book, is to encourage them to make notes actually within the book itself, because then they will value this book and they're not as likely to throw it away afterwards or pass it on to somebody afterwards. Okay, so the journey books are going to be generally more pages and a little bit more like a novel. So you're going to have to decide, okay, what is your story about? What is your message about? And so it's going to work for any business. So perhaps you are a life coach. You have to figure out, well, what makes you different to every other life coach? Are you more a romantic relationship coach? Are you more a health and fitness coach? And so let's say you're a romantic relationship coach. Are you going to write a book that's more of a how-to, like, tips for what to look for on your first date and, something to do with specifically that? Or are you going to write it more about your story? Perhaps you became a health and fitness coach because you had a health issue and it was your journey through that issue. Perhaps you had some kind of rare illness or allergies and you tried all different things. And so that could be more of an experience book as opposed to a how-to book. So you're going to have to decide, what kind of a book you're going to write. Now, I presume you already have a general idea of what you're going to write. You're going to have your own subjects that you're interested in. If you're still kind of up in the air about that, you want to just sit down and think about, well, what am I really knowledgeable about? What past experiences have I had that I've learned something through that could help people? And what are you truly passionate about? Because remember, this book is going to be your calling card that is going to propel you into speaking, writing other books, doing courses, coaching, doing one-on-one. So whatever it is that you are writing about, if this is going to be your calling card into a different career or to enhance your career, you better make sure that that's what you really want to do, because this is what this book's going to do, and that really is the whole purpose about it. Okay, so let's see some of the things that I am going to be sharing with you. How to find your creative zone. Everybody works a little bit different. Once we get into the core writing, this is where you're kind of going to get out of your thinking mind and you're going to get into your creative zone. So I'm going to give you some tips on, some people have like habits they set, some people set deadlines for themselves, some people like to kind of go with the flow. So we're going to find your personal motivation style. And then we're going to find your voice, because you've got to be comfortable with your voice through which you're going to write this book, right? We don't want to write the book as if we are somebody that we're not. So we want your actual personality to come through. Speed writing. So I'm going to teach you about how to kind of really get out of yourself. We're going to talk about speed writing. And there are some programs. We can talk about recording, voice recording. That is an option, a way to go. So I can talk about that and you can see if that's something you like. But we're going to talk about a structure. So we're not just going to start at chapter 1 and just kind of keep going and lose steam by chapter 3. We're going to actually start with a structure, and I'm actually going to do a 30-day plan or a 30 session plan so that you can do it in 30 consecutive days and do it, you know, be done with your book in a month, or you could spread that out if you want to. But we're actually going to organize a structure. And the reason for this, and what I really learned from doing my own books the wrong way, is, you know, we have kind of different modes that you need to get into, right? So the core writing is a very kind of intuitive, creative process. And that's a very different mode to proofreading. And so another mistake that a lot of writers do is they'll start to write a few paragraphs, but then they'll go back and they'll change their spelling mistakes. Well, there are different flows, there are different ways that your brain is thinking. You know, one is a very creative, intuitive way, and the other one is a very analytical way. So you don't want to mix the two. You do want to do all your creative writing, then you want to do all your copy editing, and then you want to do all your proofreading. So I'm going to show you a system of exactly how to do it, and that's going to help to keep your motivation, and it's going to give you also your goals and show you, you know, exactly how you're going to make sure that you're going to get all the elements in. I'm going to talk about, you know, structures. You might have a structure also within each chapter of how you lay out each chapter. So I'm going to talk about that. How to make your book a page turner. There's definitely some tricks in getting people to be engaged, and you know, not only writing your book, but you want to make sure that once you've written the book and they've bought the book, that they're actually going to read it, right? Because it's not just about how much you're going to make. You're not just care if you're going to make a couple of dollars a book. You care that they actually read it, and you care that they read it to the end, because you want them, when they finish this book, you want them to want to know and learn more about you. You want them to now come to a workshop, or, you know, come to a session with you, or even take a trip with you, or, you know, do a more advanced course with you. And some people have asked me, well, if you write everything in your book, why would they bother coming to a workshop? Well, I think you should put as much information as you can in a book and don't hold back anything, because it is always true that it is human nature. If we love something and we find a lot of value out of it, we're always going to want more, and we're always going to want that personal connection with the author if we can. And, you know, you'll hear a lot about these click funnels. And really, it's the same kind of mode, and it's not in a deceiving way, but, you know, your book is your first step. They're going to go from buying a book for, you know, $15, $20 to, you know, loving you and wanting to come and see you at a workshop, where maybe they're going to pay, you know, $50 or $100 to come to a workshop. And then from that workshop, they're going to want to, you know, get to know you more. You know, maybe you've got a course or something for them to do, or maybe you've got, you know, one-on-one coaching, right? So, you know, a large percentage are going to read the book. A smaller percentage are going to participate on a maybe $100 ticket. And then a smaller percentage of those people are also going to want to do a big ticket item. And when you add up the money that you're making on the medium ticket item and the big ticket item, it is so outweighs the amount of money you're going to make on the sale of a book. And that's why I think that it's more important that we get as many books out as possible. I'm going to talk about marketing and your Kindle books and, you know, self-publishing and, you know, getting your book out to a major market. So what about publishers? Should we be going out and looking for a publisher? Well, you know, in the olden days, it was very different, right? In the olden days, you would be encouraged to write a sample, perhaps write a summary of your entire book, and write maybe one chapter as a writing sample and some blurbs, and then you'd be looking for agents, and then the agents will be sending your book to publishers. Well, just things have changed a lot. And that may work for some books, some niches, or if you have like a gigantic story that's got a lot of press. And of course, if you get like a Simon Schuster or HarperCollins, I mean, they're going to be ones that can get you into the bookshops that you see at the airport and really on the bookshelves. You're probably not going to get there from a self-published book. But getting to one of these big publishers is not easy. You're going to have to first have an amazing story. And then even if you have an amazing story, they probably want to know, you know, do you have 1 million followers? Are you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? I mean, literally like 1 million followers on each. Or are you, you know, you're going to be on some major talk show? Gone are the days where they're going to take some unknown writer and pay you a $10,000 advance and, you know, you write the book and they do everything. That doesn't work that way anymore. And also, you know, if you're looking for a book publishing deal, you know, maybe there's a publisher in your niche that's going to do very well, that's a smaller publisher. But if you do get a book publishing deal, one thing that you need to look at, which was very eye-opening for me, was if you go with a book publisher, you're going to get paid per book, you know, probably around $1 a book, which is okay. But if you are using this book as your calling card, so let's say you are a speaker on the road, or you're going to become a speaker, and now, you know, you're quite successful at that, and you need to buy your own books in order to sell them at an event or in order to give them to clients. And say you're quite successful and you need like 10,000 books a year. Well, if you are self-publishing, these books are going to cost you whatever it costs to print. So maybe $3, maybe $3.50, depending on the size of your book. If you have gone with a publisher, you now have to buy all your books from that publisher. Now you're going to buy them at the wholesale price that a bookshop would buy them. So let's say your book is $15. You're going to probably have to buy that book from them for $7 or $7.50. Well, you know that the printing costs on that book are $3. So you're going to end up paying a lot more to buy your own books. So you could end up spending another $30,000-$40,000 a year extra because you got to buy it from them. So if you think that you're going to be selling a lot of books on your own, you're going to have to weigh up the figures and see if that's worth it. But I'm going to talk to you more about self-publishing and, you know, getting it out, marketing it, and some tips about, you know, about making money, but also about promoting it. So I'm going to talk about the actual writing of the book. What do you do if you get this writer's block? A lot of the issues people have are just kind of getting started. You know, people often have a story and, you know, they think they'd like to write a book, but because they don't have a structure, it's kind of hard to know even where to start. So that's really a big thing. What else? I'm going to give you some practical tips that I have learned about marketing, distribution, uploading to Amazon, and about creating your book itself, and secrets to getting the book out there, how to promote it, but how to use it more for creating that speaking venue for yourself. All right, so I am going to at least start you off with your very first assignment. So the first thing that you want to do after you've kind of done some research, you've done some digging into your soul, and you've decided what your subject is going to be, you can give it a title. Don't worry too much about the title right now. This is going to be a working title. Titles are extremely important, but we can change the title later on, and I'll show you some programs that we can use. We can go into Google Analytics and figure out what titles are really going to sell in your genre. But for now, just give it a working title. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to do a mind dump, right? So a mind dump is you just going to collect thoughts, ideas, sentences, buzzwords that are going to be in your book. And I actually prefer to do this old school. Now there are now really good publishing, writing programs, and they take you all the way through from this first step all the way through. I honestly prefer still pen and paper, at least for this first mind dump session that you're going to do. So I literally take like scrap paper, right? So this is just scrap paper, and or a pad, a notepad. And part of the reason I like to do it with pen and paper is because I like to sit outside in the sunshine and do this, right? You're going to spend a lot of time sitting on your computer writing for hours and hours. And so this is a time when you don't have to. You can sit outside in the sunshine and just start writing, you know, writing some different notes. So let's say you're going to write about you're a health guru, you know, so you're going to write some notes. How I got started, you know, what ailments I had that did this, this experience that I had, what I learned about this particular vitamin, this product, what this did for me. And you're going to start writing buzzwords down on your paper. So you're just going to have a jumble of words, which I call a mind dump. That's the first stage. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to take these different ideas and concepts, and you're going to group them into about 10 to 15 idea groups. Now, these could ultimately become chapters. So we're going to start with 10 to 15. You might end up having 20. You know, when you finish your book, you're going to end up with 10 to 20 chapters. So right now you're going to start with 10, 15 blocks of ideas. And so on your mind dump piece of paper, you're going to kind of circle some ideas together and put them down. And you're going to make about, you know, 10 or 15 different circles. And then you're going to transfer them. Again, you can do this on a program. I honestly prefer to do either sticky notes or index cards. So once you've taken your scrap paper and you've now zoned it in to 10 or 15 different groups of ideas, you're going to make a card or a sticky note for each one of those. And this is going to start to be your temporary chapters. And so you can put a name of a chapter. It's probably not going to be the name that you're going to keep, but, you know, name just so that you have an idea what it's about. So let's say, you know, one chapter is going to be my life experience. And then you're going to include, you know, a list of different bullet points that you're going to be grouping in there. Oh, when I got sick, and then, you know, how I had this experience, and then this didn't work for me, you know. So then you're going to group all that on one sticky note, and you're going to make 10 or 15 different sticky notes or index cards. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rearrange those into chapters. So let's start with that, and I will be back with the next stage.